Welcome to my video channel. I am the commander. My name is Francis. I studied to be a Catholic priest for 6.5 years, and in that time I did a graphic novel called Eve. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't do it back then when I was studying to be a priest. All I did when I was studying to be a priest was study to be a priest. But in that time, I traveled the world. I was studying in North America, South America, United States, that is, and down in Mexico and Chile. I also studied in Rome. And in Rome, it is the place where all kinds of people come to debate religion because, of course, St. Peter's and the Vatican is there. And while I was in Rome, I used to debate with all kinds of people from what would be Protestant theologians, Muslims, and other Catholics, of course, and atheists. I met more than a few atheists who wanted to discuss what the deal was. And one of the things I found about atheism that I'm going to address in this blog is that it offers you nothing.
Target acquired. Fireman ready. Roger that. Firing. Target destroyed.
I know, it's a little dramatic, but I kind of like the idea of addressing the option for atheism. You know, if you have an option, if you go into a restaurant and there's a menu, and you look at the menu and you say, oh, everything looks so good. You know, here's religion, here's philosophy, here's, theology. Oh, look, there's atheism. Oh, I haven't tried that, so I'm going to give it a shot. And then they bring it to you and it's an empty plate. And you're wondering why it's even on the menu, because atheism ultimately is nothing. There's nothing there. After all the talk, after all the promises that reason will do whatever you want it to do, which, by the way, is not exactly true, but it's not exactly false, except that reason belongs to everybody. It's not bringing anything to the table. So when atheism says, we offer you something new, you don't offer anything. And that is why I find atheism to be a complete waste of time. It is, in fact, something that comes there that's empty, and they promised you everything, and there's nothing there. Okay? Ultimately, there's nothing there. Atheism offers you nothing. And what you have now, you already have. So you don't need atheism to actually arrive to any material conclusions that you can reach by the scientific method. Okay? So atheism is an absolute vacuum of worthlessness, and because of that, it's really a waste of time. If you want to pursue intellectual things, like science, it doesn't matter what you think of God. Science is the ability to know stuff that already exists, and so that's why you conduct scientific experiments to test things and find things out and discover how things work. But the things are already there. They're not there for you to create, because you can't create from nothing, even though science would love to believe you can. Actually, the more philosophical scientists in the world love to say that, I think it's abiogenesis or something. I forget what it's called now, but, it's like something from nothing. Okay, fine. If you want to believe that, you can. That's more of an act of faith, I think, than it is to believe that there's some kind of super being that created everything. But they want to believe that nothing can create something. And from that, you get all these interesting new species. All right, whatever. Okay. But I find that atheism ultimately, because it ends up in death and destruction and complete annihilation of your being, it's really a boring and I would say retrograde understanding of the human condition, because it doesn't allow for hope in an afterlife where the fruits of your labor, if you've necessarily been poor or things have been hard for you, and, the promise of religion is that you will find your reward in heaven if you don't find it on earth. Which leads to the next little target here, which is doubt.
Target acquired. Fireman ready. Firing. Target destroyed.
What doubt does is it stops you from investigating new sources of information that you never considered or didn't plan on ever finding, so that when they do pop up, you don't look at them seriously because you've already made a decision. And if this new information leads you to doubt your decision, or doubt the value of the new information, then you will not take the time to learn it, which is the problem with doubt. And doubt is, of course, the enemy of true faith. Faith, according to the definition, is the belief in things that are not there and trust that they're going to be there at some point. Okay, that's the New American bastardized version. But I'm going to show you the real version here in a second. Okay, one thing you notice about the definition of faith is that it is a logical construct because it is contingent. That is, it is dependent on something happening or occurring before it. Okay, so faith is the assurance of things hoped for. All right, so faith means you put your trust into something that you know has already existed, or you've seen it before, or somebody told you that it's there, right? And then the second aspect of that becomes a conviction. That is, you believe so strongly, you now base your life's decisions upon it, right? Whatever you do next after making an act of faith proves that your conviction is now based on whatever your faith is leaning into. Okay? So therefore, it's a logical process. That means it's scientific in its approach to understanding whatever it is you're leaning towards. Because the scientific method also bases observations on things that are going on, forms a hypothesis about things it wants to occur, and then proceeds to act on the conviction that it can make those happen. When things go sideways in science, you go back to your hypotheses and you say, well, you know what, based on the observed details or facts, I didn't get what I wanted out of my hypotheses, so I'm going to change my hypotheses. However, if things go right, it becomes your newest form of fact. Okay? So, I'm saying to you that faith is understandable. It's not some crazy notion that we base it upon, the old man in the sky crapola. It has nothing to do with that. It's not wishful thinking. You've seen things, you've heard things, and so you kind of want to believe in it. So you put your faith or trust in something unseen, and then you become so convinced of it, you act upon those convictions. Okay? Now, there are dangers to that, just like there are dangers in science. Not that we're going to do a compare and contrast, because I don't have time for that, and frankly, it's a waste of time. Faith is utterly spiritual in its elements. Okay? That's the point of faith. Faith is a belief in somebody who is not visible. And that's the crux of faith. And therefore, your convictions based on this invisible person or thing now becomes the butt of jokes for scientists who say you can't even prove it. But they can't prove it either. And when they do prove their hypotheses could be completely wrong, if they are partisan, or worse, if they're getting paid to come up with the bad conclusions by powerful entities which control science and finance evil scientists to make stupid things happen and then write papers about it. And if you don't believe me, just follow the money. Just like a bad case of faith turning into evil conviction, which now results in pain being inflicted upon unwilling participants in your so-called religion. Okay? So that's the problems with faith, and that's also the problems in science. And conclusion, that's the problem with the human condition. It expands, whether you're atheist, expands over religiosity, it expands into our positions as mortals on the face of the earth. So, getting back to faith now. Who do you put your faith in? Since I'm Catholic and I have studied multiple things, we're going to look at the hero of the Catholic faith, also the founder of Christianity, and that is Jesus Christ.